Peace, family. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. This is Thursday, April the 24th, 2025, and the time is 7:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome. We are so excited about all that's going on in the world and about our esteemed guest. But before I introduce him, I just want to thank you all for joining the show, for sending gifts to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. I want to thank you for all of your prayers and calls and all of the email that you all send me. Also, I want to welcome our new members. We just created a members only group on my YouTube channel, the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, where you will receive access to exclusive interviews, exclusive information, and exclusive knowledge. So that's just for our members. I'm also giving everybody who drops me an email in that members only list a special gift. I'm going to give everybody an ounce of silver that joins the members only group. So today in the members only section, we talked about some things relating to the RV and how we know that the revaluation of currencies and currency exchanges are imminent. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the gold standard and how you can use gold backs right now. But today, family, we're going to talk about world events. Welcome to you all for being here. Welcome to our new member, Sheila Wallace. We thank you so much for joining the show and joining the membership only group that we call Soul Tribe and Membership. Welcome, Brother Maurice Penner. We appreciate you joining our members only group. Welcome also to Airbender, who says he is so excited about being a member of this exclusive group. Also, we want to thank the newest member, Kat, for joining the members only group, and Brother Delbert Brown for joining the members only group. And I would highly recommend that you all who desire to have exclusive access to me, because you can call me, you'll be able to email me, but only if you are a member of our members only group. And you will see the video that we did yesterday about age defying technology that Dr. Kia Pruitt is promoting. So without any further ado, family, let me just say there is a lot going on in the world. Hit the like button as you chime in. Let everybody know where you're hailing from. Subscribe to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show on YouTube or Rumble and share this video because this is going to be outstanding. So a lot is going on geopolitically and economically in the world today. In fact, people have been calling me, texting me, emailing me, and asking me what in the world is going on and what's next. What's leading them to being uncertain about what's going on in the world? Well, the Pope just passed away at the age of 88. You all know that the number 88 is very, very important, but he recently passed at the age of 88 after months of being in critical condition and hanging on by a thread for months. Kind of reminds you of the United States Incorporated hanging on by a thread. So he passed. King Charles is severely ill and has announced that he has cancer and he doesn't think he has much longer to live at the age of 76. So people are saying, Dr. Pruitt, death comes in threes. Who's next? What's next? I mean, not only do you have death happening, but nations, one after one, are dropping the United States dollar. The United States has withdrawn from the World Health Organization. Trump is issuing out executive orders one by one, left and right. And now nations are frantically meeting with President Donald Trump regarding new trade deals and tariffs. In fact, he said he's going to meet with 90 nations in 90 days. And so far, 34 of those nations have contacted him. So what in the world is going on? Will the America collapse? Is this the end for the United States of America or the empire, the Babylonian Empire? Is it the end for the United States dollar? Is it collapsing? Is it true that the gold standard is returning? Will it be reinstated? And more importantly, will the republic be restored? Well, honestly, I don't have the answers to all these questions. So we invited a very astute scholar here today, a historian, an astrologer, a husband, a father, and a doctorate of jurisprudence to help us understand, or better put, understand and overstand exactly what in the world is going on. Family, help me welcome our esteemed guest, a favorite guest of the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. His videos always go viral on this channel. The Grand Sheik, scholar, and master teacher and astrologer, Dr. Aseer, the Duke of Tears, to our show. Welcome, Aseer, Duke of Tears.
Peace. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, sister, for having me on.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for all the support and all of the love, and always having a platform to be able to speak to the people directly, and cut away a lot of the fat that sometimes gets in the way of people making relative choices to the options
Yes.
brought forth. So I appreciate you.
Oh, we appreciate you. And as I told the audience earlier today, what I really admire about you, other than your scholastic work, is that you are a husband and a father, that
Thank
your reputation precedes you. You actually walk the talk. You live the message. Your name's not attached to scandal. You
you.
are an astute scholar. You are an avid teacher. You live
Appreciate
by rules and principles, mainly the five rules and principles of
it.
our dynasty. And I
Mm.
really, really admire that about you in this time where people are looking for somebody to measure their life up to. So I hope that's no pressure, but that's pretty amazing in the time in which we live, King.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the acknowledgement, and I strive to, be worthy of the support by
Yes.
um striving not to put my nose in places I don't need to be, and
Mm,
ally myself with people I don't need to really be around. You know what I mean? Because
I do.
unfortunately, we exist at a time, like you said, where there's not too many people that's striving to be on the up and up, and it can be or is a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I don't carry myself like I strive not to carry myself like I'm better than nobody. You know what I'm saying? I strive not to be in a position to have a certain degree of intellectualism and then have that negate basic manners and etiquette when it comes to dealing with the people, because you know what I mean. At one time, the greatest scholar, you know what I'm saying, was an
Mm.
ignorant fool. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, oh,
So no matter how smart Socrates or anybody you want to compare any information or whatever to, the wisest one will tell you that the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. So it's
we
like
don't.
it's a constant aspect of fulfilling this insatiable need to get to the truth. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And you know, the thing about lies is lies need a lot of bunch need a group of need a chorus. You know what I'm saying? And they need a bunch of people to hype it up like it's a truth. But the truth, you know what I mean? The truth don't care who tell it. You know what I mean? Whether it's told by the enemy or you know what I mean, your confidant. It is a energy that can be anything except a lie. So once you establish that, you want to you want like a truth. The truth is not fact. The
Mm,
truth is the eternal aspect from which facts derive. You know what I mean?
mm,
So when people say, "Oh, that's a fact," that may be a fact, but it may not be true to that individual because of the circumstance, the amount of education, whatever, whatever. So everybody come to the truth in their own time. Yet
yes.
everybody is confronted with the facts in real time. You dig?
Mm,
So in real time, in the perpetual now, is where the truth is now has been under attack for the past, let's say, 6,000 years.
okay.
However, it's also a time where it cannot be withheld, because the age of Aquarius is all about pouring it all out. So
Speak
the
on it.
more you try to fill up the bowl, Aquarius is just pouring it out. As soon as it gets full, it's being poured out. So you can't really retain the amount of buoyancy and substance that
Mm,
you used to be able to have. And thus, what happens in a juxtaposition of that is that things that used to not have substance now do. You see what
mm,
I'm saying? And
yes.
so that kind of counterbalance or imbalance is what's creating the the march towards the entropy or the event horizon or the singularity that everybody is talking about is going
Mm,
to happen. However, What delays it is the fact that this reality is also, as much as assimilation, it's also self creating and replicating, which means that nobody wants to really check out before they get what they have been working towards, really.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's an element where, you know how they say, like, when old people retire, they'll die. That's why you're
Yes.
seeing old people in the grocery store 6 in the morning and all that. That's because the routine is what gave substance. You see what I'm saying? And now the routine is
Mhm.
gone, the direction and the fulfillment of purpose is no longer there. You dig? So they have to the ones that pivot into something to keep themselves active are usually ones that last longer than the ones that just, languish away.
Mm.
However, that's what I'm saying about in terms of like how the truth and how for the last 4 years we've been bombarded with a bunch of lies,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So now we have been bombarded with the truth, but it's coming from the same artifice that was exposed, that was
Mm.
telling the lies.
True.
So you dig? So you have these people that are now conflicted and don't realize how they're being herded into the perspective lines to undermine their own future by getting them to do things like not speak against their own country, but to the point where you're so into hating this person that you see as the enemy that you are now willingly going in and like digging up people
Mhm.
who have been selling you poison for your whole life. Everything that's been causing the poison that people are blaming the factory, the corporations for, the corporations are paying them to create these products with these chemicals, with these things in it that they then sell to us, the average individual being, who then winds up with cancer, winds up with lymphatic failure, winds up with all these things because you don't know that the Lululemon pants that you're wearing has a chemical, forever chemical variant in it because the because polyester is plastic. You understand?
Mm.
So you're sweating plastic into your private parts and stuff like that, and then
Mm.
Lululemon is catching all of this bread from it, and then now it's starting to catch heat from it. But Lululemon is paying China to do that, to create
Mm.
this. Lululemon could say we don't want forever chemicals in the crotch of the Lululemon tights, but they're not going to do that because they don't got to do that. Well, now we're reaching a point where effective immediately,
Immediately.
right? Immediately that no more red dye #5, no more yellow 40, no more blue 47, no more none of these Nuremberg chemicals that were supposedly outlawed at Nuremberg, but
Mm.
seem to find up in your Skittles and in your,
Mm.
and in your thing. But see, the problem is they don't see, the public don't see the how the faith of the mustard seed turns into the actual tree that you create the mustard from. So they not really seeing. They say, "Oh, this is just for artificial flavors and it's like that, right?" Yeah, but
Mm.
it's going to start with that, and it's going to get into the other stuff that's killing you. So once we start getting rid of the artificial flavors and all of that, right? Then that means we got to get rid of the other stuff that's in the food that's destroying the stuff too, like oil. Oil is in everything that you got. Oil,
Mm.
when they talk about, like, I'm not just talking about like canola oil, soy oil. I'm talking about the oil out the ground they put
Mm.
into clothes, they put into
Wow.
baby pacifiers, they put into talcum powder, they put into all of the stuff that has been killing the American populace since the close of the Great War, World War II, what they
Mm.
call World War II. And
Mm.
so, see what I'm saying? So you start dealing with that. Now you gotta start dealing with Exxon. You gotta start dealing with
Mm.
Shell. You gotta start dealing with BP. You understand? So
Yeah.
then it don't stop with them. Now we gotta get into the water companies with the fake water they selling. Now we gotta get it. You understand? It's
Mm.
a process. And so because the people are so um malleable to post-hypnotic suggestion, they are looking at this as some sort of attack on them when they are attacking the so-called enemy. Like, to do business in China, you have to accept, like, if you want to do real business in China, you gotta come with bribe money. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the whole thing is a scam. Communism is a scam. Okay? Socialism was a scam.
Yes.
These were things that were created. Bolshevikism was a scam. The Bolsheviks who set off the revolution for them people wasn't even Bolsheviks themselves. That's just the name that they had become to be known as by the people that they was raping and pillaging. And they hated Christians. They hated so-called regular people, Jews that wasn't Ashkenazim. They hated Muslims. Like, they hated everybody. They hated Christians more though. And so this system was adopted by Mao Zedong and was then enforced on the populace, and then was unleashed on the populace under they always have a slogan. So I forget what the name of the slogan was that ushered in this era of murder and genocide, but he, funded by Rothschilds and them, educated by Georgetown Jesuits, he helped initiate the first purges. And then who did they get rid of? They got rid of all of the actual natural paths and those people who were upholding the ancient way, got rid of them. Then they got rid of all of the intellectuals, got rid of the doctors, got rid of anybody that was basically over 25. Everybody, all the people was gone. And all them people, most of them people happen to be this color. You understand? So once they got it to the point where they created the Red Book, because each one of these dictators always got a book, or some sort of like Gaddafi had the Green Book. What's the name? Got the red. This one had the Red Book. So he had the Red Book, and then that's when they did that. They even enslaved the last so-called emperor, or the real emperor. There's a movie called The Last Emperor. It's about but he was a lot darker than what they showing you in the thing. And he wound up becoming a puppet emperor for Japan as it was expanding imperially into a region that was called Manchukuo. And from Manchukuo, what was supposed to happen was going to be with Charles Herschel and them was going to set up the Khazarian state. This is before Balfour came in, right? And then put his declaration out and to the British Parliament that all they had to do was sign off and he would pay for it. And then that's when they decided they was going to start the state. And then that's when the terrorist organizations started to move from the pogroms in Europa and move into what they now today call the Middle East, which at the time was basically a part of Egypt or thing. Because this is also at a period where Britain is breaking away from the colonial situation.
One question. Are you insinuating that the communists they were the ones running the world? This is who we're talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about after World War II, and why China is in the position that it's in right now was because of all of the genocide and stuff that Mao Zedong has set up, which then set the country back a couple of decades. While at this period, the United States, through the District of Columbia, acting as the occupying government of the United States for America, right, i.e. the Republic, they are now at the pristine because all the major manufacturing and everything is happening here because they are the ones took over here are the ones that took advantage of all of the infrastructure that was already in. They were the quickest to dig stuff out and then figure out how to use it and then kidnap those of us that was a part of the old government, part of the old world, and then force them into plantations to teach them how to work everything. And once they did that, they then adopted their names, took the patents attached to those names, and then started switching the pictures and putting their pictures and their names in, and then kicking them people out, right?
Wow. Okay.
And so they did that between I would say hardcore between 1861 and 1871, and then by 1871 to about 1900, that's the cleanup. Now they done got rid of the generations that really remember how it really was. They got all of the rest of the people that remember the millennial kingdoms and stuff. They done convinced them that they're just crazy. You know what I mean? They done have a whole generation of children that they could put in orphanages and then just program them to be what they want, and then put them in that, and then started to, like I said, move the people out and then move these new people in who have now repurposed with this new culture of that. By the time we get to the time of the city, I'm saying with Mao Zedong in China, 53 million people wind up dead by the end of the so-called revolution, which then by the end of that now, the United States is using this momentum to push itself forward. But elements within the United States, within the intelligence agency, within the Department of Defense, and these types of people who are also dual citizens with another nation, right? Who we just talked about, that was trying to come in there and do what they're doing, in so-called Israel right now. They come in and they decide that they're going to actually fund the China and basically use the communism thing to turn it into basically a manufacturing state, that they could then turn all of the people into specific labor workers in almost a beehive structure that would allow them to get the cheapest materials to make the most goods, and then they could upcharge it here in the United States, while at the same time empowering and creating this relationship through the Chinese government, right, with them, while at the same time being somewhat adversarial to them. This is what the movie The Manchurian Candidate was about, with the one with Frank Sinatra, the original one. People gotta go back and watch that one, because that's the real one. That's the one that is dealing with how the time what I'm talking about. And in that, China was the ones that was doing it. In the Manchurian Candidate with Denzel, this was just an expose on how they was running the protocols for the MK Ultra and the MK Naomi programs to create the political mouthpieces and the mind control political mouthpieces and the sleeper assassins.
I see.
So all of that came out of this period. So right around the time that Reagan shuts everything, all the manufacturing stuff down, right? In America, everybody starts outsourcing. This is when Detroit, this is when everything goes to thing. America starts producing, we become more import based, right? And then what happens now is China is gaining more leverage, because now the people who have been subversives within the United States government from Lyndon to who's that? From Lyndon to who's that? Ford, then Nixon, then it was Nixon, then Ford, right? So everybody from let's go from JFK. So from JFK, he was basically doing what this dude doing now. They got him up out of there, right? We'll get into who that was in a minute. Anyway, from JFK, then we had LBJ. LBJ is the one, car carrying member, Grand Wizard of KKK. He the one who convinced the so-called Dixie Mafia and them to take advantage of the civil rights base to create a perpetual voting bloc based on the same premise or an altered premise of what Noble Jew Ali did in the 20s when he got Oscar the Priest and them into office at a time when so-called black people couldn't even vote, couldn't read, couldn't write or whatever. He got Oscar the Priest up in there and got a lot of stuff moving. So Lyndon, being an astute politician, he understood elements of that and applied that strategy to this situation. And then from there, he got all of the base Prince Hall type people, Greek type people, black Prince Hall, them type of people, the upwardly mobile blacks that was trying to integrate, and they went to them. You see what I'm saying? But they didn't have as much money as the so-called melanated people who were still owning land and property and all of that. So what they did was they made sure that they found a way to eventually get the property. So what they do is they start to promote college as a means for you to send your children to get educated. And then once you send them to the education camp, remember the HSBCUs like Spelman, that was set up by the Rothschilds, named after Miss Spelman, who was Rothschild wife. Howard, which was a military installation set up for the POWs of our war that we surrendered in, and then used as a military base concentration camp, which it was a city at one point. They refurbished it as the so-called university to re-educate the so-called wayward Negro youth. And through this re-education, this is when they start to learn that they imports from Africa and this, and that. So now their parents are saying, no, you really from here, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, we're educated. We know what it is. So now we're going to do what we need to do because we eventually need to go back to Africa. So in that, to do that, we need money. So to do that, we need to sell the property, you see? So this is how you not only denationalize, you're also dispossessed, you're also possessed by a false ideology, right? And then you're forced to make decisions that impact you negatively while create a compelled benefit for everybody else. So in that, communism and these things start to be used by the time Marx, who was a melanated man, and he starts piling around and starts espousing all of this stuff. And then from there, like I said, these Khazarian think tank mafia people start to use that as the means to propagate the ability to finance unrest, create war, and then pull money from it. And then that became the cycle. But to do that, you got to use a political system. So communism or socialism was used because it could be applied to any civilization. You could just put it over that and follow the tenets. But the main tenets of it is genocidal murder of your population. You understand? That's why you have all of the stuff that is dealing with you in the social system today. All of the programs are incentivized to keep you in the system and not incentivized to keep you out. And then all of the food is then incentivized to keep you sick. And then all of the information is incentivized to keep you scared and keep you fear-based and keep you miseducated, right? Meanwhile, for people with money, they're able to get a better education, a better situation, but they're just in a gold hamster wheel while you're in an aluminum one. You understand? And theirs may be a little higher on the shelf than yours, but when they work together, they create the cog, which is the machine that keeps the watch, right, going. So that's why everybody got to be on someplace at a certain time. You got to have certain things at a certain thing, because everything functions through the numbers of the Kabbalic system that these people that I'm talking about have been using on that. That's why certain dates are important for certain things. May 1st, July 4th. See what I'm saying? On the 5th. These things are used because this is how the old pagan Romans, right, again, originally started as a republic, right, then was co-opted into a state, then was co-opted into an imperial empire, right, which then, based on paganism, basically adopted through the ages whatever civilization that was there. They would just absorb you in, Romanize you, basically rape you, and then get you to worship their gods. If not, they would just genocidally wipe you out. That's socialism. See what I'm saying? Under the Roman pretense of fascism, right? So these systems, they don't exist, but they exist in the minds of the people who have created the system that's attached to numbers that they can attach to words, right, and phrases that get into the minds of people that alter them to make them think that communism is the right way, that cutting my breasts off is the right way, that robbing this bank is the right way. It's not that they're forcing you to do it. They're creating the parameters for you to do it, and you fill in the blanks based upon your perceived social, economic, circumstantial reality that you believe is imposing you, that in actuality, you're imposing on yourself. So it then creates a disassociated identity disorder right? A DID disorder, where now you're looking at yourself as somebody else. That's why when people do certain things, they pop out. We've all have done it. At one point, you pop out of it like, yo, I wouldn't even do that. That's not me. But no, that was you. See what I'm saying? It's just the you in that moment was dealing with whatever emotional archon that attached itself to you and allowed you to then play yourself, however that is. Now it's up to you, who is now back in control of yourself, to make amends and figure out how you're going to move forward. So that's where the country is. That's where the world is right now. But where the rubbers meet in the road is, people who live in this country are now actively trying to find ways to sabotage. So that alone, on a basic level, is treason. But take the United States out of it. Okay? Because the United States is not America. America is the people. America is the continental North, Central, and South. But in our provincial aspect, it's everywhere from California all the way to New York, all the way down to Texas, all the way over to Florida, back up all the way. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. Mainly. Then you add Alaska and Guam and whatever. But essentially, America has always been the people. Those of us that have been here and have always been here. Then at a certain time, another group of people came and then acted like they was the original people. Right? That was the whites. That was the Siberians. That was the Chinese. That was the white Irish, the white French, these types of people. But remember, they didn't get here till the late early 1900s. And didn't really make an impact here as social groups. Because remember, these were slaves. These were peasants. Slaves.
The European, all these other people that came over, they were slaves.
Came here, they didn't have names. That's why they gave them names. Okay. They said, "Oh, well, we always didn't." No, in some of these cultures, they was coming straight out the caves, putting blankets on them, putting them on the boat, and sending them over.
Slaves to whom, Sheik?
Slaves to the Cossacks. It used to be the original Tartarians, but then once the Russians helped wipe that out with the French, they wound up taking control of who they call the Circassians, who were the slaves who lived in places like Siberia, the Caucasus Mountains, the ones that was in the caves. These are the ones, and they brought them out. And once they purged Europa of people like us, they moved them in, and then they got to live there for like maybe 20, 30 years. And so now they're thinking they're the real ones, because they don't have a history outside of the history that they gave when the new invaders brought them in and said, okay, this is where you're going to live. You're a German now.
I got chills hearing you say that, because I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, this is how they do it. There's a book called The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler. There's another one I always talk about, how the Irish became white. Another book, They Were White and They Were Slaves. Another book called The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War. And in these books, White Cargo, Black Masters, White Slaves, Black Confederates. There's a plethora of this history, but they have suppressed it, and they've only given it to you in parts, and then changed the names of different people, so you think it's not your people, but it's your people. It's just they had different customs, and then they got a new people to come in and act like they was those people. Same way you watch old Western movies and you see the white man playing the Mexican, playing the Chinese man, playing the Indian, right? That's the same thing they did in real life. That's where they got it from. That's how they did it. There's old Westerns where you'll see the original so-called American Indian, i.e. the Moors, speaking a version of Mugrabin, right, with feathers and turbans and stuff, and they roll up on the white Indian and the white settler. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how it was. They came and tried to adopt the ways in order to live and get into the tribe. And once they got in, their goal was then to take over and then turn it back to a colonial system. Because now they're in and they have married into the royal side, so now they got the right to switch the laws. So it's the same thing with every 4 years, the system changes here. So the last system, we were at the brink. We was at the brink. They was basically taking it where they wanted Hillary to take it, but Hillary would have took it further. They got you to the brink of collapse because how they take over is through invasion, but they can't invade you conventionally because what people don't understand about China is that China has been lying about China ever since Tiananmen Square. All y'all that's on red note, why don't you ask them about what ancestors or what relatives they had that participated in Tiananmen Square? I bet you they won't tell you. Some of them won't even know what you're talking about. That's how consistently they wiped out the whole event. But I remember being a child with my mother watching the news and that man standing up in front of that damn tank. And that tank stopped. Right? And then from that era, there's been documentaries made about this dude. What happened to Tank Man? Nobody knows. You understand what I'm saying? So they don't wipe that whole aspect of history out. But I lived that history in the original timeline. So you can't tell me it ain't happened.
Yes, sir.
You could tell them that. So all these Chinese people telling you how great China is and all that, but they're not telling you that they live in 30,000 to a tenement. They're not telling you that the water turned red every so often. They're not telling you that they got to deal with they got to deal with not only them being able to take your bank account, but they're able to go in, put money in, take money out. They're able to see who you spend with, shop. One day they might say you can't buy bananas. You can't buy bananas for the whole day. And if you try to buy bananas, they'll shut it up so you can't buy apples now. Then if you try to buy apples, they're going to say you can't buy grapes. This is how they work. That's their culture. That's what they turn their culture into. A utopian, dystopian hellscape that appears as a scientific marvel. But in actuality, it's hollow. It's falling apart. They got buildings that's made literally out of cardboard. They got buildings where you can't even, you can't even walk hard because you'll fall through the thing. They had a whole tenement city of over 50, I think it was more than that. Maybe it was made to capacity for only like 50,000 people. They pushed it to like 100 some odd thousand people in this one thing. It was its own city. It had its own ecosystem. It had its own thing, and it had no sanitation. So all they would do is throw garbage into the middle of the pit. And every year the garbage would rise to the point that by the time they demolished it, it had almost reached the top. This is where Netflix shows like The Platform and these types of things is coming from. This is how they live over there. You understand? Unless you got money. And remember, these are communists. So they're allegedly anti-capitalist. So they can do whatever they want to their people. Remember all the people they killed during COVID? Remember, it came out that the whole thing started with them. Why? Because that is how they have chosen to do business. They killed their own monarchy. You understand? They killed their own connection to their spiritual royalty when they degraded their own emperor, even though he related to us. That's all the reason why they didn't like it, because he was more Manchurian. And Manchurians, everybody knows those the melanated ones that go all the way back to Fuhai and the Xiang and the Zhao and them. But they don't want to talk about that because then again, that would bring them back to us, right? So they already know who and from whence they come. But they know that they went through a war where they purged all of the ones that look like us and remember, and they created a miseducation system to be able to program their people to do that. So yes, their children are very advanced. They can build things, they can do all that, but they have no spiritual base in nothing. The Chinese God is money. Chinese believe in money so much that they create Joss paper. You know what Joss paper is?
No.
There's a multi-billion-dollar industry in China to create Joss paper. Joss paper is magic money. It's money that you buy. It's fake money that you buy to burn for the ancestors to bring you more real money.
They do that here in America? I've seen people do it. Buy fake money.
Ancient practice.
Okay.
It's an ancient practice. That's what you do. You put fake money on your altar to represent real money. Buy the Joss paper, right? I'm not trying to just to practice spiritually. I'm saying that money wise, that's the focus of the prayers. You understand?
Yes.
There's no central figure. Like if you take it all the way back to Shinto now, that's a little different. Shinto is more like Chinese cosmology is like many different gods in many different realms,
Sure.
and they intersect based on that. But there's no, so if you want compassion, it's not like, so you want compassion, go to this god. You want war, go to this god. Like everybody else. Only difference is there's no one overall. The one overall, right, from the divine source, right, there's not too much dealing with that. So what they do is they can conceal that in terms like the great Buddha or the son of heaven or things like that, right?
It's called hell money, right? That's what they call it
Right.
here in America. Okay.
Yeah. Right. You know what I'm
But that's
saying?
not
So
necessarily saying it's a bad thing or bad practice. You're just saying it's an ancient
no,
practice.
I'm not saying it's a bad fact. I'm saying that spiritual wise though, that's not
Okay.
what they deal with. Like
Mm.
demon, like there's more demon culture. Like they deal with demons and shit a lot. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So it's funny that you'll deal with demons, but then you won't see like a supreme being above all
Mm.
that made that happen. You dig what I'm
Okay.
saying? But they'll deal with the lower gods. So they dealing more with the gods that can materialize, dematerialize, you know, like the Hindus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I never forget, I saw a picture of after the flood, they had this woman walking in the water holding up almost this high up to water, holding up the statue of Vishnu. So that is what I'm saying. Like people who create idols of things deify those things more than the creative force that came to them to create the idol in the first
Mm.
place.
Okay.
And when you are spiritually bombarded with the negative aspects of your society, you only see that.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when you go into the spirit realm, you're bringing that or seeing elements of that there, whether it's real or not, because you are participating in how much of this you're going to allow to affect you. So if you believe that Trump is a fascist dictator, right, then you will see him as that, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what he does. And in his heart, he might be, but you got to go by not by what they say by eyes, but by faith alone. You got to sometimes go within what is the person doing. So
Absolutely.
every time somebody shows me something, oh look, he doing this, then I see something that's the exact opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whenever something is actually seem like it's going to actually help the people who live here, there has to be something to draw your attention to why we should care more about people who are not here.
Oh,
So that's like constantly having a room and you always having guests, but you always saving that room for this one guest that only showed up once or maybe never showed up at all. You're not making no money off the room, but you keeping that room any just in case. So it's your faith that's making you lose the money.
right there. Aseer, I think he paused. Thank you all for those of you that are entering the chat. We appreciate you. He might have gotten a call or something that caused his phone to freeze. Thank you also to all the new members that have joined the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show members only channel. For those of you who joined, members will get exclusive access to certain videos and interviews and products that we are promoting on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. I am also promising to send everybody a gift if you drop me an email in the members only channel, and I leave my personal email there in the members only channel of the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. And we will discuss certain things that we won't discuss on this channel. So I'm going to go ahead and invite him again to the show. Wait 1 minute. Today on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, we talked about, in the members only section, we talked about how we know that the RV or the revaluation of currencies is imminent. We talked about how tariffs and these agreements with President Trump will lead to a currency revaluation, and that whole currency is going to the bank very soon. Let me see if I can get Aseer back in the chat. On tomorrow, we're going to talk about gold in the members only group and how you can use gold right now, how you can use gold and gold backs for local goods and services. And I will back it up with proof. So that's only for those who join the members only group, because there's some information that we won't share with everybody else. You'll also have exclusive access to me, and I'll give my personal email address in the members only group. We'll have some key sessions where we'll just talk to get to know each other. You'll be able to ask me personal questions and questions endlessly about Nasara, Jasara, RV, all those type of things. I'm not the expert, but I'm an expert based on research, knowledge, and information that has been shared with me. But I'm not the end all to be it all. Therefore, I will invite people like Aseer, the Duke of Tears, to come on this show and into the members only group. So the members only group you'll see on the Dr. Kia Pruitt's YouTube channel. And they'll have a button that says join. You can click to join. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Let me see. For those of you who have asked me about credit repair, because I was a credit repair specialist, I will share with you a letter in that group, how to challenge certain things on your credit report. Although we know credit is ending, okay, all of your debts are going to eventually go away, bank loans, all that's going to go away. But some people have still asked for a letter that they could send to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian in order to discharge or take off or challenge certain things on their credit reports, like collections, et cetera, et cetera. So in the members only group, I'll give you that letter. We can talk about that, and we'll just chat it up in the members only group. And I'll try to post very, very often, because people want to hear from me. So here again is Aseer, the Duke of Tears. Welcome back.
Hey, sorry about that. The phone got too high. It just shut down.
Oh,
I had to put it in the freezer.
Oh my gosh. One last thing, family. For those of you all, I see some of you are sending a Cash App blessing. Thank you so much for supporting the Dr. Kia Pruitt show. I will shout you out later on in the show. We want to focus on our special guest. But those of you are asking, it is $ Mama Kia 13. That's $ MAMAKIA 13. If you want to support the show by sending a Cash App, or you can join the members only group on the YouTube channel. Also, I will put all the links of Aseer, the Duke of Tears, the Grand Sheik, in the description section of the YouTube channel and the Rumble channel. And you can have access to his YouTube channel. You'll see his Facebook page. You'll see where you can buy his wonderful exclusive book. And you will see how you can support he and his wife's business, because they are entrepreneurs, called Cordoba Organics. This is an all natural, 100% pure raw ingredients for your skin, hair, and nails. When you see his queen, you'll see her skin literally glows. She is beautiful. She has rich ebony skin, long locks that hit the floor, and she's very, very svelte, very thin. She's a yogi expert. The woman looks phenomenal and amazing. We've had her on the show. We'll bring her back on. She sells her own products. So you can support his business, and we'll show you how to do that later. In the meantime, let's get back to our esteemed guest, Aseer, the Duke of Tears.
Shukran. Sorry about that. Happened. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people are being urged to do that, when for the past 4 years the government was being run by Adam Schiff, Comey, Brofman, Birnbaum, Ann Weiss, what's his name? Funded by Soros' son, who just took over from him. They was laundering money through the FTX thing. They done kept that whole Bankman free. They made that go away. Nobody talking that, but Maxine Waters got money from him. Jeffries got money from him. You understand, 76% of the donors to the so-called DNC party are all billionaires. All of the money is coming from billionaires, and then the people are used to take pieces of the billionaire money and use as mules to pass it through. Then they wash it through Act Blue, and then once Act Blue get it, then they wash it again through like BLM or whatever. Then they'll wash it again, right? But the money used to come directly in through the USAID, but then the head got cut off for that. So now everybody's rat line got exposed. Once they got exposed, they couldn't launder like they used to, because now they're also being audited. So, but it's a forensic audit. It's not just a regular audit. It's a forensic audit. So this
What's
is
that?
based
What's
on
that, King? Excuse me.
a
What's it?
forensic audit is when they go deep into the root cause of the payments and how those payments have matriculated into undocumented accounts.
Okay.
And also basically it's what you use to discover a crime. Basically. You usually bring those in when you trying to set somebody up for an indictment. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So all of that got exposed. So the character, oh damn, let me get a charger real quick.
Okay. To support Cordoba Organics, which I have used for my skin, go to cordobaorganics.com. That's CORDOBA Organics, ORGANICS.com. I put that link in the chat for you all so that you can help support their products as being entrepreneurs of, owners of their own company. Let's see what else we want to share with you. Also, if you're interested in sending a donation to Aseer, the Duke of Tears, for all the information he shared with us through the years, his Cash App is $DS418. That's $DS418. And again, I put the link to Cordoba Organics here in the chat for you all. Thank you so much. We see our moderator, Love BN Nubian, chiming in. She says, Doc, that hair is fire. Looking fly as always. Thank you, C-Star. Thank you so much. You're on the site now? Good. They're on the site now looking at Cordoba Organics. We appreciate you.
Okay.
Great products. We're going to bring his wife back to share, to talk about her organic products. Okay. You're back.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's what's happening. They created a new syndrome, the TDS syndrome, and then they used that and milked that so much that it became the opposite. It actually numbed people to all of that because people can relate to persecution. And when they see someone being persecuted, no matter who they are, it's a problem. And remember, being raised in America, you were raised to sympathize with the devil. You was raised to sympathize with the gangster, sympathize with the serial killer, sympathize with the murderers, right? Think about all the documentaries you've seen about the Iceman killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, all of that.
Yes.
There's people on that thing talking about, oh yeah, he seemed like a good person, all of that, right? So think of all of the women right now that are trying to pursue people on death row and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, not every criminal on death row. Yeah, it's a big thing right now. Women are marrying dudes in straight prison, straight dead. One female, blessed the death to her family, married the dude, had conjugal visits for him, and then he killed her. You know what I'm saying? Like, Christian lady, really about forgiveness, all of that. But, not every person in jail is innocent, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, some people there, because that's what they did. They did things that had to be there. So when people created these, when people started to equate, see, at one point, the original man, the American man, was the archetype of masculinity in the world. Everybody wanted to be like the American man. You know what I mean? And people could say, "Oh, the white man," but it wasn't just white men. They was trying to be like. They was trying to be like how, like, just so it's, you could have the Marlboro man, but we have Shaft. You know what I'm saying? You could have. You know what I mean? You could have whoever, but we had this person. We always had our juxtaposition of this, of that. power, of images of power. It's just that those images were manipulated, you see what I'm saying, to get us to see a certain type of man as powerful. And once they were able to start to chip away at that, they started to create the seed to make it so that way real masculine men would not be seen as that anymore, would be seen as a problem. So that way the effeminate beta cuckold type man that can be easily manipulated and controlled by the state, because that's one of the pinnacles of feminism. You understand? To emasculate the man and turn the man into the woman so the woman can take her rightful place as the man. This is doctrine that they are raised in. But
And
that doctrine comes. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I was going to say that we don't realize how detrimental feminism is. We think that it was about empowerment of women, but the real movement was about taxing that population of the female or the women population. It was also about usurping authority from the man and getting the woman to annihilate her own child as part of the eugenics program as well, according to my knowledge. It wasn't even about rights for women. And we certainly didn't care about that in our community because we were supporting our men at home. We didn't have a fight with them, according to what I understand and understand.
You're glitching out a little bit.
Oh, am I? Okay, so I was just saying how feminism wasn't about equality for women. It was about an agenda to tax that
that's
population.
Exactly what it was.
Okay, yes.
That's better. Yeah, okay. That's exactly what it is, what happened. And the sisters fell for it. And then the narrative was created by getting these educated people like Toni Morrison and these types of writers, Nick Giovanni, and these types of writers. They then convince you of the narrative given to them by the Jewish Rhodes Scholars and these people that programmed them with this communism and this Marxism and this feminism and stuff. And now they start writing stories about how grandma was always raped by her grandfather and she never really loved him, and how she needed to be free and this and that, and how she was always raped by the white man, by the black man, and sometimes the black man did her worse. All of this came from that time period. Up until that period in literature, it was always about keeping us together. You
and can I say one more thing?
The writers, whether it be Dora Neal Hurst.
Another narrative that I keep hearing is that women were beaten and abused by the black man. The black man had a family across the road or across here or there. And while some of those stories may be true because you have bad elements in every community, it wasn't my reality. My grandfather didn't have families across the road. Neither did he beat up on grandma on either side of my family.
No, they tried to make the exception the rule. Yes. They try to take the smallest aspect of original people culture, or the most small, because when you look at all of the negative stuff you see about black people 24/7, 365 days a week, that only represents not even 1% of us as an original people here in the country. Them people that you see on TV, all of these people they propped up to be puppets to their system and get you wrapped up in it. All them people broke. None of them people is really real people. They are just functionaries of a system, and they're paid well for it. So you can't feel sorry for them. You can only understand that they're just another part of the rule and another part of the plan that allows the plan to function, because they're there to get you to aspire to be like them. But why would you want to be like them when 10 chances of 1, the arena that they were put in to make you idolize them was probably rigged in the first place? NBA rigged, NFL rigged, baseball rigged. Baseball has been rigged ever since the whole shoeless Joe Jackson scandal, all the way back in the days. White people still bugging out and finding out Babe Ruth was black. Like there's a whole history of people in this country that you think is melanated, that you think is white, with straight melanated people at the highest heights of this country, like Eisenhower. You know what I'm saying? Straight so-called black man, melanated man. Hoover, melanated man. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these people. The dude that was running the CIA, James Jesus Angleton. He's the main one that got us into all of the crap we in right now. They got statues to this nigga. And this person was one of the most evilest people in the world. But he wasn't a white man. He was Mexican. But passed for white because he went to Catholic school or whatever. He was also homosexual. And he was part skull and bones. Once he got in there, he became the heir apparent. They made a movie about it called The Good Shepherd. One of the best occult movies you could ever watch. It's all about him.
Okay.
There's so much occult stuff in that movie that you'll miss it if you're not, astute. That's why understanding how your enemy operates allows you greater understanding of how you were supposed to not operate. So he operated based upon the Mossad system that he was brought in because he was trained under the greatest spy masters in the world, who was at the time the head who ran what they called the Black Art School out of what became Tavistock Institute. But during World War II, it was based in the underground tunnel system. That's where it originated. And that is where he learned the dark arts and stuff like that on how to manipulate, create spycraft and all of that. And then he wound up taking the code name. They gave him the code name Mother. Because from him, he birthed what we understand the modern intelligence agency to be. Because he was this intersection between Mossad, United States intelligence, British intelligence, which at the time, and then deep within that, the burgeoning Israeli intelligence that was now acting as the final tentacle on the octopus, that they then could reshape the world. And by painting Russia as the enemy, by pushing Japan back 2-3 generations with the bomb, by bringing all the Nazis that they could after the sham trial in Nuremberg into Spain, out of Spain, into Italy, from Italy into the Vatican, from the Vatican to Argentina, from Argentina to Brazil, from Brazil up into whatever state that they had been relocated to, and whatever government position they were given. This is how Warner Von Braun became the head of NASA. This is how Jack Parsons and then became, all of these people are descended from these programs or connected to these programs in some way. And these occult programs were deeply entrenched in the occult, deeply, all of them. They do spells on, when the final draft, they got a vault where they put all of the stuff that they do that. And they all will have, like on the back, they'll have like invisible witches seals on them. So you got to see it with a violet light or some sort of effect where it had like invisible ink. Because remember, they're operating within a general system that does not necessarily acknowledge their existence. So technically, they're insurgents within whatever government they're in. You understand? Okay. And they have to give codes to each other. But at the same time, they also don't know who else is down with them. You understand? So you could be, they made a movie about this called No Way Out with No Way Out. With Kevin Costner. See, there's always a movie. That's what I'm saying. That's CIA. That's them. That's them. That's how they do it. That's how they get you to go along with it. They told you that Hitler and them was alive and they was cloning him in the Boys in Brazil movie. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been telling you all of this, or us all of this. There's a movie called The Apt Pupil, where the old guy that plays Magneto. It's called The Apt. APT pupil, and it's all about this little Midwestern kid who's kind of a shut-in, kind of crazy, and he winds up finding out that the dude next door to him was one of the highest ranking niggas in the SS, to the point the nigga still had the uniform, and he would go over to his crib and force him to put it on and talk to him all about the situation. And by the end of the movie, when he dropped dime on him, they find out, when the Nazi hunters find out, oh, he really alive and all that, and they get rid of him. The kid now is already programmed with the whole thing, and then he tells his parents, "I'm gonna get into politics." This is what I'm saying. So it's not like the KKK and the Nazis and the white supremacists and the white nationals and the Christian white nationals. These are all waning societies that are on their death throes. That's why you starting to see them again. And they are all throwbacks of the white secessionist movement that talked about how, you know, the South will rise again and all of that. And that is a leftover movement of the losers before that. So this is a continuous movement of losers, right? Who have learned how to manipulate things based upon using the same tactics, but just with different countries and circumstances. And by allowing, and by people allowing themselves to be denationalized or dehumanized, they give them the ability to do that. Because within the human psyche, there is a hierarchy structure. Everybody is not equal. Everybody is made equal, but everybody is not equal. That's why we have to practice equality. You know what I'm saying? Because it's something that you practice. It's not something. That's why they don't say. That's why the devil don't use the term equality. He used the term equity.
Equity.
See? Oh. So the equity is, if this is a line, this is a line right here, and we all need to see things on the same line, but we're not seeing each other from behind the line. So if that means I gotta have the bottom portion of my body cut off, and he gotta get an extended leg or whatever to do that, whatever that has to happen behind the scenes, so long as we're seeing things on the same line, we're equal. We have equity. You understand? And that's it's a fallacy. It's not real. It's developed. It's developed by the same people who developed colonialism. It's developed by the same people who created fascism and communism and white supremacy and black supremacy. These things don't exist. It don't exist. These are concepts and ideological circumstances created by people who are trying to survive. So they're not looking at it from the perspective of this is a long-term plan to a short-term goal. They're looking at it as, oh, see, he failing because everybody now talking about they not going to do business with the United States. You understand what you're saying when you say stuff like that? Because remember, the United States is the problem, but it is the conduit that the world uses to deal with America. America is the people. Because you people think that there's over 4 billion, however many billion people in China, you think that they have the ability to come over here and invade like you see in G.I. Joe and shit. It's not like that.
It's not like that.
Number one, why? Because China don't have over 1 billion people like that. China is in a birth dearth ever since the 70s because they adopted the one-child rule or the two-child rule instituted again by Jesuits and Rothschild type people to enforce on a population to create a type of child to be created in which they slaughtered millions of little girls, took their organs. Same thing they did to the Falun Gong people, because the Falun Gong people were actually healing themselves by using the ancient spiritual practices. But what that did was when the Chinese would torture them and things like that, they wouldn't be hurt. So China was like, oh, then when they started to invest, they look into their insides, like do experiments on them. They was also not suffering from the same diseases the other populace is suffering from. So you know what they did? They started organ harvesting them. They did the same thing to the Uyghur people out there, who was Muslims, Muslims or Muslims. And nobody in the Muslim community, all of these pale Arab people, all these Dubai people, y'all be stroking off of them, none of them people said nothing about it. So they pick and choosing. Who's going to see Allah, who not. You dig? Also that what? They could get cheaper Nikes from China, so they could get cheaper Timexes and shit from China. This is what I'm saying. So they're destined to fall. So the real numbers are coming in. There's a YouTube page y'all should check out called China Observer, and it's real. It's not the Chinese media. It's not the American media. It's not the small hat run media. It's real on the ground. So-called Chinese people letting you know what's really going down.
Mm.
You lucky. You lucky if there's 300 million Chinese people over there. You know how many people's in the United States? Matter of fact, don't even answer that. You know how many Chinese people in the United States?
Hold on
So
one
what, y'all
minute.
gonna come over here and kill them too? You gonna come over here and bomb them too? That's what y'all gonna do? Well, they had a plan for that. But when your boy got in, part of the ICE thing, go and read the ICE situation, and all of them Chinese police stations that Biden and them and Barack and them allowed, and Clinton and them allowed to open up, they all got shut. They all getting shut down.
Mm.
They running up in all of them. They running all of them out. This nigga raised the tabs to 245%, bro. That's crazy. But you know what? How many people? Everybody beefing about it. Which one of y'all has been directly affected by that so far? I bet you don't know nobody. But you see a bunch of people on TikTok talking all that type of stuff. I've been hearing how there's no eggs. There's no eggs. The eggs is gone. Every time I go to the damn store, there's eggs there.
Yeah.
It's full of eggs. Full
of eggs. Sure is.
So
sure
what are they talking about? What are they talking about? Like they saying, oh, this the beef, like everything. They always want you to think that something is trying to kill you, whether it's the beef or the eggs or whatever it is. And those people who do that were the people who were majority in control in the last situation. And all of those people are billionaires. None of those people give a damn about you.
Woo.
Okay, and never have. They're all racist. They're all pederasts. They're all money launderers. They're all criminals. How is it that all of them are investigated for fraud? There's a website, I forgot the name of the website, that you could track the criminal record of all of the people in Congress to the minute. These niggas be getting arrested for DUI, rape, domestic violence, battery. These people crazy. Credit card fraud. These are your elected officials. Why? Because they created a system that had been running ramshot since they popped Johnny. And since then, everybody's been functioning like this is how the society's supposed to be. And it's not. It's not. So now everything is being taken from everybody. So the stock market starts to tank. Great. Instead of beefing about it, go in and start buying the stocks on the penny. Do what they do. He's showing you how to get money. Think about what this nigga did. By him doing this to China, China countered by getting their agents to go on TV and say, oh, look, Louis Vuitton is doing this. What you call it is really paying us $1. And they charge you $30,000 and this and that. Come to us and get it for cheap. Louis Vuitton, Adidas, all of these companies are the ones working with the government that had been suppressing everyone for the past 2 administrations. Exiting Trump's, going to Obama, Biden, right? And even before that, the corporations are the one, because the law says that it could be manufactured anywhere. Once they manufacture it, they have to send it to Italy. Once it gets to Italy, when Gucci puts the label on it, it now becomes what it is. That is called markup capitalism. That's how people get money. That's how the drug dealers do it. That's how the niggas do it. The slave traders did it. Everybody do it that way. Everybody marks up what they have to be able to get it. It's just how much of a markup are you going to do? Depends on how greedy you are. You understand?
Absolutely.
How less morals you have.
I wanted you to keep cooking, King.
So what that means now is he has now told you how to get the bag for free, which benefits you, right? Which also in a way helps China, but who is it hurting? It's hurting the corporations. That's who has been controlling you, niggas. The corporations are the demons. They are the egregore. They are that. They are the faceless ones that are there to control you. That's why every corporation got a logo, right, that you see, and then there's one that you don't. Because the one that you don't is based on the demon or whatever entity they use to help create this thing. How do you think Pfizer come up with all of this ways to kill you with poisons and then market it to you like it's a vaccine. Only the devil could use trick knowledge in such a way to do this where none of these niggas have gone to jail yet. Where they made old laws to protect them for the lives of people they were going to murder now. So all of that got to get repealed. All of that got to go. But that can't go if the mechanisms to pay for all of that is still in control. So you got to do away with that. And the corporations got to be brought to heel. That's what this nigga's doing.
Who's this nigga you talking about?
47. That's what he doing. That's what he doing. He's bringing them to heel. He punishing them for the last 4 years or whatever he went through. And that's what he's supposed to do. That's what people voted him in to do.
Absolutely.
I'm not even a supporter of this person. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, wow, this dude is really, if he was really what they say he is, then they would be for this. But everything he do, not just one thing, everything this nigga do, whether it's good or bad, that's how I know he's onto. I look at him and like, he's onto something. You know what I'm saying? I look at him like,
I'm sorry. The chat is going crazy about you calling him an N-word. This nigga.
I mean,
this ninja.
I mean, yeah, him, whatever. I mean, in the end, that's how he act. Or my relationship with Donald was growing up with him in the hip hop era, and I always saw him around rich niggas. So I'm not talking how many records, like he was dope back then. Everybody was comparing themselves to him. He was paying for Rosa Parks. He was paying for Jesse Jackson to run for president. He was paying for what's his name? Jim Brown's daughter is his goddaughter. Jim Brown. Like, y'all bugging. So what I'm saying is, think about him what you want. I don't care. What I see happening is what it is that y'all said y'all wanted. Y'all revolutionaries, right? Y'all RBG, y'all niggas down with America, flame America. This is what you want. You want the chaos, right? No, because now what happened? The white man made platforms for you. Now you can get monetized. Now you understand? So you don't want this shit to go away as much as you say you do, because you're using the same artifice to shit on the person, right? That you say that you're being oppressed by. So are you really oppressed? Or are you going along with the oppression to give you something to do because this is the purpose that you've created for your life to focus on? Cook. This ain't got nothing to do with this dude. I don't give it. I've been alive since Carter. Okay? And my life has not changed relatively, really, between all of these people. So I done lived under everybody since Carter. And since then, I done seen it go up and down, the same way it's doing now. And all that time I grew up in the nuclear era where we thought we was going to get nuclear bombed to atoms, bro. I grew up watching The Day After. I grew up with that type of shit. I grew up with the Red Menace, where these niggas trained me. I watched Red Dawn. I watched Invasion US. I watched Rambo. I watched all of this stuff.
Remember, we used to hide up underneath the desk because we thought nuclear bombs was going to kill us. In school, they traumatized us.
The Reagan era was virulently anti-communist. Vehemently. So you can't now switch it on me and now act like Lenin was good and Marx and these niggas was good. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to do that to me because it's Bobby Seale telling me, or it's Eldridge Cleaver telling me, or it's Kwame Ture telling me. Like, it don't matter what you telling me. The shit you telling me is based on mind manipulation. It's not even a real concept. You can't create a society in which that is the perpetual form of governance. It will not work. You can talk crap about a communist, a capitalist society, you could talk crap about a capitalist in a capitalist society. You could talk about a communist in a capitalist society, but you cannot talk about capitalism in a communist society like that. No.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have the freedom to do none of that. So all you niggas is out, all you people that's out here trying to talk about how much, like, you're actually rooting for people who are planning every day for your demise. China has raised their children to know that one day they're gonna dominate you. That's why when you see them, all of that pageantry shit they doing, all of the guns, all of that is because they scared of you, not the United States government. They scared of the people. The people. The reason why Japan said back in World War II said they wasn't going to invade the United States, you know why? Because when they checked the gun rolls, when they checked the registered gun rolls, they said there was over 7,000 registered hunters just in Texas. So now throw in gangbangers, throw in Crips, throw in Bloods, throw in white supremacists, throw in Mexican cartels that don't want to go back to Mexico, throw in the average everyday nigga, then throw in the YNs. You don't want that. That's who they really scared of.
Who's the YNs?
Really scared of the so-called YNs.
Who's that?
I saw a video the other day. The ops shot this young brother in the head. And they was online clowning him. Homie came on they live and pulled the bullet out of his head, this young man. This man might not only be 13, 15. He pulled the bullet out of his head. He said, nah, I'm still here. It's up. Them niggas shut the live down right away. Like, oh, this dude, they coming back from the dead in real time now. What are you going to do? That's who they're training for. That's who they know, because they know there's something in us. They learned it from the last time when Grenada fell. Certain things came out of us that they had no idea we were still capable of. So much so, they wiped it out of your history. But the spark and the genetic material in you lies in the mitochondria, because what they don't tell you about mitochondria is that is not a human, technically a human enzyme or a human chromosome. They don't know what it is. So that is connected to the pre-you. So you got things in you that activate when certain things are put into a catalyst position. So like when you see them, when you used to see the Pope with the black eye, and you see them with the black eyes, that's the real worm that they putting in the eye, and then once it goes in, they punch you in the eye to keep the eye in, because the eye automatically is gonna pop out. So they got to keep it in, so it drills into the retina. Then it hooks itself up to the stem, and then starts to accentuate the reptilian section of the brain. So if you have the ability to shape shift or become whatever change, it's in that section. So that's when you get plugged into them, and then this is where the shape shifting, the dual consciousness splitting, this is where that type of stuff comes from. So within all of us, especially us, we have this ready to go. And this Christ gene, or whatever you want to call it, right, is that which is multi-dimensional. It does not exist just in this realm. So if it pops off with us like that on us here, it's going to be everywhere that we are, that starts to come in on them, and they can't do it. So it's better that they just keep you believing, moving the carrot in front of the horse, and keep you believing that it's about to end. It's about to this and about to that, because then your belief is what allows them to stay in the power. So what you got to start to do is believe in the opposite. But start to take away your focus from the democracy, focus on the republic, if that's what you want to do, and look at those things that are connected to the republic as law, if you want to look at it like that. Matter of fact, he just signed a law that says any law that is repugnant to the Constitution of the United States of America or for America is void. So remember, I told you the Chevron deference back before he got elected came through. That shut down, that opened the way for him to do all of this stuff. Okay. So once that happened, no agency that was unelected can create laws for the American populace anymore. Then from there, now that happened, that would then mean that they had no business to function or need functioning. That's why he could go to USAID and start to shut that down. Once that got shut down, all of the money that was being laundered through all of the different human trafficking organization stuff they got going on, they can't access that no more. So they got to create rat lines, right? Like they did in World War II. They create the rat lines to then start to move the money to friendly places like Israel, like Ukraine, like Switzerland, like England. Why England? Because England is broke. The state of Mississippi got more money than England right now.
Wow.
England, in another 3 years, is going to be all Muslim. Once Charles died, he done signed the country over to become Muslims. Or go look at the mayor. Don't believe me? Go and look at all of the mayors in London townships and London counties right now. They all Sunni Muslim. So it's a wrap. They all they chose. These niggas is also married to 2 and 3 women. They also got more than one wives and all that. They also got their own Sharia courts out there. They also got their own lodges. They also got their own banks now. All within 7 years, this has been going on. So so England is about to be Muslim again. Okay. So once that happened, they're Muslim Brotherhood Muslims. So so it ain't good. These are all operatives. This is the new type of invasion. They take the operative, train them, grow them up, program them, break them, re-educate them, put them into local government, let him rise. Once he gets to a part, gets brought out. Boom, he gets the money. We make sure he gets into the position. Now he's in the position. He implements what we want. That's Trudeau. That's Merkel. That was Biden. Biden, like I said, he wasn't even signing nothing. He was so incoherent and doped up. He couldn't sign nothing. So who was signing it? Well, everybody that I named in the beginning of the joint, because that's who was running the country. And it's illegal, It's illegal to not have the president sign anything, because this technically means everything that he signed into office is basically null and void, because he didn't do it. The auto pen did it, and based on whichever person was trying to move their agenda through. So it's over. So everybody's gonna have to go to jail. That's the only way that's the other thing too. The only way he's gonna be able to stay in power is if all these niggas go to jail, because that's what everybody waiting for. The real Epstein list is the list of donors to the Democratic Party, because all the niggas was with him. You want the list? That's it right there. You understand? 76% of the wealth of the United States is going to Democrat people, and most of those people are dual citizens to that other country that shall not be named.
The one that start with an I or a C?
Say again?
Which country? The I, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So they in that. Like Bergoglio just died, the Pope. But what made him do all of the stuff that he did was the fact that people don't understand that even within the Vatican, going back to the good old days of Ignatius Loyola, that piece of crap that was obsessed with Moors and started the need to reduce Moors basically out of existence. His hatred for Moors was so deep, and it came from a deep inferiority, right? And so what he wanted to do, so long story short, the Moors on the road on a horse in his regalia, going about his business. What's his name? Ignatius Loyola is riding and happens to ride along with him. And as he's riding, he's speaking to the Moor, because the Moor's still in power at this point. And he's like, yo, what is it about you guys that just allows you to just walk around with so much pride and stuff like that and act like, you basically all that. And he's like, because we place all of our faith and all of that in Allah, which is basically our highest self. So we know that this is all not real, that the true kingdom, that which we are in now, is just glory to him. And so we don't care about whatever it is that you guys care about. And he just kept riding on. And as he was riding, he had dropped some gold, right? And as he was walking, he's watched the Moor, and the Moor didn't even care. He heard it, looked at it, and just kept it moving. He was like, wow, these people got that much bread where they could just, and I'm out here like a scamp or whatever. So he went back to the so-called Christian, newly erected Roman Christian papal powers and said, look, we need to set up a society to learn how to basically learn the ways of the more to destroy them so that way we could get all of their stuff.
Mm.
And so he established the Society of Jesus. And this is a melanated man I'm talking about. Ignatius Loyola is a melanated person. So everybody know Loyola University, Georgetown University, that's all named after him.
Mm.
He was the head, the first head of the Society of Jesus, which was the first clandestine intelligence mercenary zealot fanatic terrorist organization established by the Catholic Church. And they were so reputed that no matter that Moorish dominions had kill orders on them on sight. That if you was found to be a Jesuit, and it's over for you, because the Jesuit infestation, as Ibn Alawad said, had to be extricated before it metastasized in the body. So these Jesuits were so heinous that they had what they call the fourth vow, because it's different levels. The fourth vow Jesuits, those are the ones that are the most ones. So when you talk about Colon, Cristobal Colon, and these type of, most of them were Jesuits. So these Jesuits were, for one thing, as much as they did for the Pope and all that, it was forbidden for any of them to ever become a Pope. They were meant to control and facilitate the power, but they were not meant to hold it. You understand? Well, Bergoglio was the very first Jesuit in history to take the role of Pope, the nigga that just died. Okay. That's what made him, when they say he was the reformer, when they use the word reformer, that guy's a Jesuit. Just know that. He's a Jesuit. He down with it. So people will talk about the Jews, but then won't talk about the Jesuits. People talk about the Jesuits, won't talk about the Jews. But essentially, they all the same. But the Jesuits themselves, they are the ones. They are the generals for the order of Christ, but not Yeshua, not Yahweh Christ, but the fake Christ that was created and was forced upon the world at the fall of our grace and the rise of their Christianity. So real Christ, or real understanding of Christ, died or was done when Christianity formally came in the scene in our era. You understand? So when we talk about the Council of Nicaea, that's where they were still pagans then. They were pagans all the way up to now, but technically they were still pagans. So what they were doing was they could no longer control the so-called populace from practicing the version of Christ, of the understanding of Christ at that time, which is vastly different from what people are doing now. Because Yeshua, if we're going by the story, Yeshua represents the culmination of the Hebrew spirit manifested into this alternator that now takes them into a higher form of consciousness, basically fulfilling the law that was brought by Musa that they rejected. So at the close of the fall of the Temple of Jerusalem, right, when that fell, that was the calculated end of the old Hebrew law paradigm up until that point, right? Because it had been fulfilled through the actual physical manifestation of this so-called God in man, right? That manifests as such. This is why all the religions all seem to acknowledge him except the Judean ones. Because basically, if you acknowledge him, then you acknowledge that all of that Old Testament stuff is what it was. But it was fulfilled in this. And once it got fulfilled, there was no need for the temple, the physical temple. Because now the arm, leg, arm is now the temple that exists to hold the host of the Most High, right? Each one of us. And then collectively together represent the consciousness that can then ascend everybody into this so-called Christ ship, right? So that's why after Jerusalem falls, Mount Vesuvius erupts, Nero's killed, Caligula killed. The other great disasters start to happen. Rome basically falls into disarray. The disfection comes where it gets split, right? And all while this time, we coming up, right? We coming up, we proselytizing all of this stuff. We're basically revamping everything and bringing it into a new form of being. And that happens basically from 70 AD, or let's say 68 to 70 AD, and then from 70 AD basically all the way up to 1492. We basically created a whole new work. When they talk about the Moors, what they say, the Moors brought civilization to the world, and they cured the diseases, and they was bringing corn to China, and they was bringing oranges to Africa and everywhere. So this period in which we're refining and doing all of this fantastic stuff then gets to be chronicalized in different forms. But then after the fall, and now Christianity, these niggas just come out the ground. Christianity is now the new thing. They are now using the Woodwolves, the white Circassians, as the bulwark of the armies. They're producing them literally out the ground. The Cabbage Patch Kids, the human incubators, they just doing all types of stuff, bringing these things out, wiping us off the land, getting our people to sell out. Then they put their people on the land with the new education, and then after generation, they've already been there. Go back and ask white people, how long has your father had this ranch? Oh, since the 1800s. Really? Why the 1800s? Because that's where everybody's land was getting soaked up by them. That's why they all getting their land taken from them now, because it was never theirs, because they were never from here. They were from Beringia, the so-called Native American Siberian people who call themselves so-called Indians. Now, they worked with this white man to help dispossess us from our land, because we repelled their invasions when Genghis, when the Tartarian kings was using them as beasts of burden when they tried to invade here in the 13th century. There's books on this stuff. Like, why you think we can call ourselves Asiatic and not be from Asia? Because the Asians come out of us, because we're the ones who do that. So we, being the true remnant, the true descendants of the original Americans, we're the ones who are the most dejected by every other nationality on the planet. That's how you know it's us. That's how you know it's us. Nobody got that distinction but us. Nobody. And we don't speak nobody else's language. Everybody speak their languages around us, talk about us, ridicule us, act like we was from slaves from Africa, some bullshit they know didn't happen. And we so dumb, we just go along with it. We wind up copying them. We wind up going to, word, I am from Africa. Let me move here. But if you watched movies like The Women from Brewster Place, there's a scene in it where Cicely Tyson goes in on her Afrocentric daughter. She's like, how you Afrocentric when you are descended from a Algonquin queen? And you're going to adopt this foreign African name when your name is a descendant from a generation of Algonquin queens that go back thousands of years. She looked at her mother like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, be proud of who you are. If you want to be whatever, this is the place where you could be that. That's how benevolent our people are. We so benevolent that we'll treat everybody else better than ourselves. There's no betterer people than that. We would rather kill ourselves than go out here and try to kill and do something to somebody else. Think about that, bro. That's a certain type of insanity. That's a certain type of spirituality not everybody got. Because not everybody went through what we went through here. Nobody has. I don't give a damn what concentration camp you went through in the 1930s, Japanese. I don't care what type of situation you went through at Auschwitz, Dachau, or whatever else, Ashkenazi. I don't care what you went through, so-called trailer tear. That was us. That wasn't y'all. Y'all was the ones who benefited after that. And been fronting all of these years and been creating shit like the quantum blood tests and you got to have the quantum blood and all of this crap. When I ain't need that, when my great grandmother at 90 something was telling me stories about how we owned the Hildebrand plantation that she grew up on. And then one day she came home and it belonged to somebody else. And now we had to work for this white woman and the white man that was living in the house. who took the name Hildebrand. This is what she telling me. So y'all niggas can't tell me nothing about nothing when it comes to this stuff. Because in the end, all of y'all are grafting yourself onto stuff that's about to be done. It's about to be out of here. There was never any white people. There was never any black people. There was never any District of Columbia. None of that existed. These were all things on paper that niggas used guns to force people to adhere to. And now the time is coming where the guns is being given to the rabbit. And y'all niggas is complaining. Y'all niggas is actively rooting for China. That's where y'all going? Y'all actively rooting for China now. This is what y'all doing. So y'all might as well just go and fight for Ukraine. You might as well just go and put the rainbow flag on and go get castrated and whatever else y'all gonna do, and let these people do what they're gonna do. Paint BLM on your door, you know what I'm saying, so they know what it is, and you can just take your puberty blockers and your vaccines and all of that and be with that, because there's going to be a world for people like that, and there's going to be a United States, there's going to be an America that's not like that. Well, you don't got to do none of that, but you're just not going to have none of that, meaning you may not have Wi-Fi, but guess what? You could power your cell phone. This is why they got to get rid of TikTok, because I learned that I could get 2 onions and a quarter and stick my iPhone charger into it and charge my phone. It's over.
What?
It's over. What do I need them for? I don't need them for nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like my queen was talking to me earlier. She was like, yo, why we watching this whole thing on jockeys and all that? And she looked at me, she was like, didn't the Moors create all of this? I said, yeah, you know that. She's like, yeah, but I'm looking at it now. It's like all Mexicans and white people and all this. I said, yeah, because that's what they do. She said, so these rich niggas with all of this money, none of them ain't think to set up an equestrian thing? I said, no, because they'd rather just go to the Derby. They'd rather go to the Derby and bet on a horse instead of actually coming out they bread, buy the horse, win the Derby, and then create a whole industry for melanated people to get into, just like we did with golf and tennis and all that shit, right? But they ain't gonna do that. They would rather just stunt. They would rather pose with the horse than own the horse. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. So that's where our mind be going. Like, yo, that'll be a whole thing. Like Moors, we need to get into stuff like that. Creating farms and stuff to start to teach Moors equestrianism again. How to ride by side saddle. How to ride bareback. Like there used to be a reason why women would ride horses sideways. You understand? Okay. All of that got changed up when they started to try to turn the females into males, and vice versa, because the vibration could break the hymen. And at the time, the Moors, the virgin was the most cherished. So that's why she would usually ride in the carriage, and the Moors would usually ride on the horse, leading the carriage or protecting the carriage. You understand? It wasn't until after the fall of Grenada and stuff like that, where now we done became pirates and mercenaries and all types of shit, with women now wearing pants and all of this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not trying to diss women for wearing pants. I'm just saying they're studying. I'm telling you, they're creating fabric where specifically in the crotch area, it's nothing but forever chemicals. So if it's not 100% cotton, not 100% linen, you're killing yourself.
I grew up not wearing pants for the very reason that you're teaching right now.
See? Islam, see? Because your mother raised you right.
Yeah.
Because you was raised right. You was raised in a good Moorish home where people had values and structure. This is the type
and was a virgin when I got married, because virginity was important.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Like that is the type, that's how I was with my wife. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to be celebrating that as much as we celebrate the lasciviousness of promiscuous sex, because they got new diseases out here that's literally eating your crotch right after you have sex, where your penis will just fall off. So if y'all want to live in that type of United States corporation, there's going to be a whole lot of vaccines and stuff ready for you to be able to deal with that. Those of us that's going to be living in the real world and stuff that's not vaxxed, it's so bad now where they have done studies and reports now where the spike protein has replaced the male sperm in people who have been vaccinated. The sperm has become spike protein. It's no longer sperm anymore. So that means he can't create a child, or if you do create a child, it's not going to be a human child. It's going to be something else. So they've already implanted a certain degree of the population to within the next 10, 15 years to look totally transhuman, where they'll be able to, those will be the generations that will have the type of things where they can grow port sections in the brain to be able to stick stuff in them, because their physiology is going to be more silicon based to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just what they're doing. And these are all of the tech billionaires. So when they started to phase out in the 80s, the real masculine men, and started to replace them with Revenge of the Nerds, right? And all of that, right? The nerd culture and all of the weakling, and where the jock now, or the real masculine dude, automatically was always the bully. And then the girl who was with the real nice dude, the jock dude, up until she meets the nice nerdy dude, right? He treats her better, and then he winds up getting confidence, and then he can overcome the Billy. You see, this is the mind control. That's how you create a cuckold slave. That's how you create a beta male. That's how you create a male who never had a father in his home, right? To show him how to actually be a man. So because he sees himself as a weakling, because he never had a man to say, no, nigga, do another 100 push-ups. That's what males need. That's how I be on my son. You know what I mean? That's why half the time when he get a chance to just do him, that's all he want to do. Because we be on him like, no, you got to work out. You got to clean up after yourself. You got to do this. Because when you get older, you're not going to have some female looking at you like, well, how come you don't do it? No, you need to know as much as you can, while at the same time not putting him in the killing field to have to fight against it. It's bad enough I got to deal with the computer, but I'll be damned now if I'm gonna put him in the school system where, you know, anything can happen at this point. So we homeschooled him and sacrificed to do that up until, you know what I mean, up until now. He's 16. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
wow, 16.
Sacrifice. Yeah, we have to make sacrifices. Us, not sacrificing each other for a contract or a deal or money or a government contract. We got to start sacrificing the aspects of us that have come to think that criminality is a byproduct of being a melanated person, where they have anchored criminality into that, where just because this person, because all of our leaders, all of our entertainment is always about somebody in the 80s and the 90s who was selling drugs and was pimping hoes and doing all this other type of stuff. But we've just found out through the Epstein thing that the Kit Kat Club, which became the Tunnel, was actually owned by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein was running whores out of there at the same time that Jay-Z and Biggie and all of hip hop was coming into its existence as the New York scene. And from there, those people were able to bring other people in, like Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons came in, and then when he came in with another dude named Lyle Cohen. Lyle Cohen and him brought in another dude named Brett Ratner, because they all met up at Columbia. Columbia, if you didn't know, was owned by the Colon family, right? Which is, again, the Collins family, which is, again, the family that sponsored the voyage of Cristobal Colon. These are the families that were in charge of the Columbia, what they call the Columbia expositions that took place as the World Fairs. These are the puppet masters, and that is one of the schools that they Jesuit people up without them realizing. So they all meet there. They meet another nigga named Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner, who did the movie Who's the Man with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, he came up under another dude named something with an M, Meyer or something. Not Meyer. It's a Jewish name. It's a Jewish guy. But this guy that he came with, the guy that he grew up with, basically, was the number 2 guy. This is the guy who learned directly from Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky is the person who created the mob next to Lucky Luciano. Go look at the movie Mobsters with Christian Slater playing Lucky Luciano, right? So the American mob, well, I'm talking about the Italian mob, Meyer Lansky was the only Jewish person connected to that. Meyer Lansky was an agent for Charles Herschel, who was working for the Balfour situation that was working to establish the Israel thing. So I'm showing you how all of this is coming into hip hop. So through Brett Ratner now, who was under the nigga who Brett Ratner was under, he was the guy who worked out how to create the holding and the shell companies for the mob. One of those companies that was created was called MCA. And
Okay.
MCA, they used to say MCA was then involved with the payola scandal because the head person at the time was a dude who was brought in, right, by the guy who was above Brett Ratner, who set up the label. This guy's name was Clive Davis. Clive Davis now comes in. He is now running the label. He is now starting to use the label to help bring in the drugs through the touring that the artist is doing. So the artist would have the drugs in the cargo hold, and this is how the mob was able to move the dope throughout the world and not get taxed and not get caught. Because the rock bands and the musician bands that was being run through the record labels were acting as the drug mules. That's why these, and then to not say nothing, they would get their little cut of the drugs. Why you think it was all the artists was drug addicts? All the original artists of the rock era, all of them were children of Air Force children, of Air Force people. It was all rigged from the beginning. So Clive Davis, after his run, he winds up having to almost go to jail because one of his boys gets found with keys of cocaine. So then he take the fall. Clive low-key step away from the music industry and wait for his time until he meets a dude named Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell comes in with an idea for his own record label. Why? Because Andre also attended Columbia. So he now seeing Russell and them getting the money off of his brother and his cousin, D and them, and he like, well, I'm gonna get the money too. And then boom, he comes in under Clive. Clive shows him the ropes. Clive brings him in as the apprentice. Clive, you know, they do that thing. And then what happens is he gets his own label. That label becomes Uptown MCA. See what I'm saying? Now we get to launder money directly to the people. And we get to control the music that we want them to get into. This is why the whole thing was run by organized crime. This is why all of the rappers started to name themselves after Italian mobsters. So it was a Masonic nod to who was really running this shit, who they really paying. So that's why, and remember, they had been involved in the entertainment industry since Giancana helped Mossad and CIA get rid of Johnny, get rid of Kennedy. So Puffy, so then boom, Andre brings in Puffy. At the same time Andre brings in Puffy, one of Clive's friends introduces him to Epstein. Clive introduces Epstein, or somehow or another they get together, and then they hook up and meet a dude named Maxwell, who was Jelane's father, who was the head of who was a part of Israeli intelligence. And then he, Mr. Maxwell, puts Jelane with Epstein and then gives them the money to set up the tunnel, which then all of the hip hop niggas started coming through. And all of the drug dealers. That's why all of the hip hop niggas came in through drugs. The Sugar Hill Gang, a lot of that, some of that money came from Giancana and them family. They was paying, and the sister, she was trying to maintain it, but they strong-armed her out. And then that's when they took control. Wind up going into CBS. CBS is already a CIA front, and then CBS give them the money. They set up MCA. MCA set up Uptown. Through Uptown, we get Death Row. See what I'm saying? Then it go from Puffy and them to Suge, because now we moving out west. We're taking it out west. And now we got both coasts set up. So we done destroyed New York hip hop because it was too masculine, and we want to turn these niggas gay. So what we're going to do is move it to the west, but first we're going to bring the south up, because the southern dudes, we might could get in more with them and get them to accept the wild costumes and all of that. Why do you think Andre 3000 and these niggas came out looking crazy and all of that? Why? Because they wanted to. You wanted to wear a mushroom costume. You wanted to wear a blonde wig. You wanted to look like a woman. That's what you did. For what? Your art? Because you rap? Like, rappers wasn't doing that. But this is how they soften you up. Oh, well, Andre doing it, I could do it. Oh, he painted his nails, I could paint my nails. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And so the next thing you know, hip hop in America, New York, gone. We done got rid of Biggie. We done got rid of Tupac now. And now we got full reign to it. And now we're going to, because also they got tired of masculine hip hop, hetero hip hop niggas running up in the labels with guns, beating up white executives to get their money.
They were. I remember that.
They had to find a way to shut that down. So let's make them less effeminate. And the ones that's not effeminate enough, we get rid of them. Chris Lighty, he's out of here. DMX, he's out of here. You know what I'm saying? You could just go down the list. Soldier Slim, he's out of here. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that Pimp C, out of here. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Prodigy, out of here. Anybody that's, you see? And then what you left with is the people who's down with getting them up out of here. And that has become the American way. And these guys think like criminals because they're criminals.
They are criminals.
They're all criminals. Cardi B is a criminal. What you call it is a criminal. I'm not saying they're not nice people. I'm not saying that they don't make good music, but they're doing things that they know are injuring the people who are supporting them. So if they knowingly doing that, that means that they don't have no. If Jay-Z will sell crack, if a nigga will sell crack to babies, to mothers, and then rap about it, and then never go to jail with it, and then continuously act like that's his thing, he don't have no remorse about none of that. He don't care about none of the lives. He never set up a drug-free situation, not that I know of, set up a drug-free hotline or a halfway house for ex-crack mothers and stuff. No one has ever done anything like that in rap. And they won't. Because in the end, they don't care. And it's okay. I'm just here as somebody who was there. You know what I'm saying? As well as people in my generation. And we watched y'all niggas do all of this. We watched y'all. And we even came to y'all and told y'all that what y'all was doing was wrong. And that y'all need to repent. Y'all need to stop vandalizing the people and doing the shit that you're doing, B. And y'all still continue to do it. Then towards the end, when that didn't work, they tried to then bring them in the conscious community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then try to get them to get money like that, do the same thing. And look where they at now. It still ain't working for them. I done seen these niggas run to the heights of media. And then at the same time, at the very low. And I mean people in the conscious community, on mainstream news, all of that. And I said, well, he made it. He made it. He's there. They're talking about him and thing. And then 2 months, a year later, oh, wow. He gone. He in jail. You know what I'm saying? He caught up. Like, because that's what America do. It create the savior for them to crucify you. And then market your crucifixion t-shirts. Like, that's how they do it. Then make the TV movie about it. And then the comic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they want you to do. So this republic that we're phasing into is going to be a place where that type of stuff don't fly no more.
I was just about to say, Sheik, you are cooking. You are cooking, but I only have about 10 more minutes. I want to do a part 2 if we can.
Let's do it.
But I want you to bring, like you're bringing it home. We're on the same wave, but bring it home and leave us with something in the last 10 minutes, because people are really enjoying. We have almost 600 people in the chat.
Thank you guys, man. Thank you guys for the support and any donations you could send. It definitely helps me keep this thing going, because we are a self-run operation. We don't have no corporate sponsors or influence money and none of that type of stuff. So what you see us doing is everything that you've seen has been us, literally. So honest to y'all, to wrap it up, basically, I'm saying, you and I are at the precipice of watching something that we have collectively been thinking about actively come to pass, which may be people actively being punished for the things that they actually do. However, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you're ready for that type of situation to happen, like, are you ready for them to show you tapes of this dude and the things that they was doing? Because Puffy, like, I just showed you I just laid out who's really in the Epstein list by going through this whole thing we just went through and all that. So it's more people than that. Bill Gates in UK, like I said, which is broke, they trying to now create a bill to block the sun. So you mean to tell me you're gonna create something to block the sun for what? For who? So all of that is to say that none of that stuff is gonna work anymore. All of the stuff that they've been doing is over. The WEF is in shambles. Charles Schwab about to go to jail. The new dude, who is the Nestle dude, he got a bionic eye. You got to look at this nigga. He's the new one that's going to take over for the WEF. He used to run Nestle. This is the same maniac that said water is not a human right, that people don't have a human right to access water. So he's going to be the new head of the WEF. So with him being in, and Bergoglio being dead, remember Bergoglio was brought up on satanic ritual abuse charges and found guilty by the International Court of Justice. Y'all need to look that up.
Oh, wow.
This was after he did this is why he did the motu proprio when he first got in. After he took over from the Nazi who sold the Xylon B gas, Ratzinger, who was the Nazi Pope before him. So you had a Nazi Pope, and then you got a Jesuit Pope. Now the Jesuit Pope dead. Now they're going to bring you the last Pope. But according to their ritual, this is the last one. So naturally, they're going to start it off, end it off with a bang. So you got two black men that's in contention for it. One, whose name is Turk's son, right? So Turk's son means what? Son of a Moor or son of a Turk.
Right.
The Turks and the Moors are the same people, but he's African because most Roman Catholics are African. There are more Roman Catholics in Africa than there are in Italy. This is what you're dealing with. So that's why we can't really look to our cousins and them from Africa for guidance. If we do, look at somebody like Ibrahim Traore. You know what I mean? Somebody like him, who has turned his country basically into a paradise in the last year and a half. Traore is doing great things out there. And of course, they got a Negro to come out here to try to smear him so they could do a regime change. They're trying to act like they're trying to do, but they caught the dude. Traore on point. He got the whole country doing rituals to protect him. So I think he's good.
That's smart.
He's good. He got the old Mama Laos and them out there doing that work. So I don't think nothing will happen to him. Matter of fact, they found the traitor who was going to set up the coup, and they was going to kill him. And in his mercy, as a great statesman, he allowed this traitor to leave, and the French got him out and stuff. So again, this is what I'm saying. No weapons formed against us shall prosper. We are all about to be where we're supposed to be at. So everybody getting deported, that's because they're not supposed to be here. That's just what it is.
That's what it
is.
is.
We can't be deported nowhere except the state we was born in. So what's going to happen is everybody that's not from here is going to have to get up out of here. And only U.S. citizens that can or might be deported are those who are found under serious crimes and stuff like that warrant them being expurged. But what's also happening is that Trump is basically collapsing the American private prison system, which is what y'all niggas said y'all wanted. He's forcing them to divest out of it because the whole prison system was again connected to the mob and the resource center called Wackenhut. Wackenhut changed its name to Geo something now. But either way, they are the ones who created the prison to pipeline and got to MCA and to convince them to get the music to help them fill the prisons up. So that whole system has been cut off. So that's why he's creating an outsourced system for violent American so-called offenders to move them out, just like the other ones, because he's literally trying to get the prison system shut down. What he also did was sign into law a perpetual state of refurbishing and refinancing all of the HSBCUs so they have independent funding.
Wow.
While at the same time writing laws saying that anything against the Constitution is repugnant. So all your statutory state laws, all your municipal laws that y'all niggas, all of the toll fines that y'all, all of that's illegal now, y'all. That means if you get one of them, you could take them to court and win off top because of the federal statute that's in. So everything that's being shut down is actually benefiting you, right? But now y'all talking about stocks as if y'all was ever invested into the market in the first place. Y'all wasn't dealing with none of that. Y'all was just 5 years ago, y'all was Bitcoin masters. Remember, everybody was in FTX and all of this. Everybody was a crypto master. Right? What happened to all of that? Gone. Why? Because he about to subsidize that with gold and create the circumstance that there's no governmental thing to be able to try to pierce your wallet. So he done made it illegal. You know why? Because he got his own app like me, and he don't want the government to come in there and try to shut his app down if he get too many followers. So he done made it illegal for them to be able to do that. So again, we're winning. We're winning. It's just that we got a bunch of people who are disgruntled because they're insane, and they're evil, and they're ignorant. So sucks to be them. Let's do us. Get your house in order. Declare your nationality. Understand who your heritage is, where your heritage lies, especially if you're an American originally, i.e. a Moorish American, i.e. a Moor, whether you're a Moor, M-U-R, or from America, or M-O-O-R from Europa, or M-U-I-R, which is either from Scotland or Ireland, or M-O-R-O, which is Philippines, or we could just go on and on. We're the only ones who can claim that. And we're the only ones that can't be claimed or copyright or trademark, because you can't trademark Moors. We existed before the corporate structures existed. And we are the underwriters and beneficiaries to something they call the hundreds, which were the ancient corporations that, upon us falling, put our estates into to hold on to it. So that way, at this time, we could start to get paid.
What?
So stop. Don't hate, congratulate. Let's be proud of where we're from. Let's stop being anti the country we live in. Again, I'm not asking you to fly American flags, but if you do, fly the 48 state flag, because that's the closest one to the original Moorish Republic, if you're going to use the actual flag to fly. But the original flag is Old Glory, we know, which is the red Moorish flag. And he is using Moorish law in the form of tariffs, in the form of Doge, because the Doge was the one who did the audits on behalf of the Grand Seignior. The Grand Seignior was who they referred to in the Articles of Confederation as the great governor of the world. The Grand Bey, whether it was Mansa Musa or Abu Bakari or Montezuma or whoever it was at the time. So that's all our inheritance. So we are receiving it back now, but you'll get more of it if you come from under the slave labels, which is why under this so-called regime, the Moors in Chicago, big up to them, some Moors in Chicago, big up to them, in the progressive society, they were able to make it now where Moors will be able to check where Moorish or Asiatic will be on the racial and governmental forms and stuff. So you don't gotta check all these different boxes and draw graphs and shit to say who and what you are. And then once they do that, that acknowledges you and cements you again as a true American, because they know who they are. They know who they inherited from. When George Washington said he's cut down a cherry tree, the Freemasons know that it's all about the Moors, which is us, who are the so-called disinherited, disenfranchised, dispossessed, disunified, insane so-called melanated man and woman in America, who have now reached the point where we're sleeping on the floor, so we can't fall out the bed. So
ain't go no further down than that.
So it's time to get up and do what we need to do, you know?
Absolutely. And I just want to say this to you, and I want you to address this, that whenever I talk about us being the autogenous people from America, most people get excited, no matter what their skin complexion looks like. But then I have a small group of people that say that if I talk about us being Americans or being Moors, then I'm being racist and I'm being hateful, and they want to know why I always got to talk about us being the autogenous or original people in America. And I'm thinking, well, most people are proud of being a national from whatever nation they're from. But it's bad if I'm proud to be American.
Why? Because there's money in it for you, and they don't want you to have it. They want us to be destitute, and they've been used to us scraping their boots and looking at them as if they're somehow better because they speak Wolof, or they speak German, or they speak Italian, or some other language. But none of y'all niggas is in Germany. You're not in Italy. You're not anywhere. You're here. You're here in my land that my ancestors built, fought, died, reborn, resurrected, fought, built, died again, resurrected, and have still been doing it up until this point. So the fact that you would have a problem with me identifying as what I am means that you aren't what you say you are. So you telling us on more about you than me, because the original so-called people from Poland were from Polonia, and those Polonians were like, look like Steph Curry. You know what I'm saying? The original Etruscans, the original Romans, the original of all of these religions, cultures, societies, cities, whatever, is that. Then you have the other ones that will come and say, oh, well, no, well, I'm Cherokee and we wasn't this and we wasn't that. No, don't. First of all, if you're calling yourself Cherokee, you're dating yourself till after the fall. So you obviously don't know your history. If you're calling yourself Cherokee, that means you're probably either one of part of those fake civilized tribes that they use to help sell everybody else out. If you're calling yourself Cherokee, that is a general statement. But if you want to get into what you are, that means you would have to say that you're Tasalagi or Chartalagi or Ananawiya, right? Or whatever else that's associated with their name. So, and those names are Old Moorish names. Anything with Al in it. Algonquin. Who name was Albert in the 12th century America? Like, get real. Like, anything with like Anasazi. What's another one? Anasazi, the Mecca Indians, the Mohegans, the Mohammeds, the Mohawks, the Abenaki, Wabanaki. All of these are so-called Islamic names. I would more say Moorish names, because not all Moors were Islamic, but the Moors were the ones who maintained what people today call the Islamic Empire. But that is all because they don't want to call it the Moorish Empire, because that was the last one in which our melanated people dominated the world. And so that's the whole thing. They rather you be American Indian, but like I said, the Cherokees, when you get there's a book called The True History of the United States of America, and in that book, it says that the Cherokees were the ones that ran off the mound builders. And the Cherokees were the ones that burnt and killed the original mound builders and then built villages on top of their mounds and earthenworks and structures. So if you're saying you're a Cherokee, that's cool, but then that means you can't say that you are the original Algonquin people, because the original Algonquin people were the ones that the so-called Cherokee said that they killed and then built on top of their mounds and their earthenworks and structures and pyramids and cities. That's why you ain't never see no Indian talk about building any of these things, because when they crossed over from Beringia in the 12,000 years ago, I would even say later than that, earlier than that, excuse me, later than that, they came and saw what was already here. They couldn't be a part of it, so they had to live in wiki-ups, aka because they was homeless. They were living in tents, living off of goats and bison meat and shit. Like, we wasn't living like that. We don't live like that now. You know what I'm saying?
We know, but somebody says if we're all reincarnated, then we've all been everything, right?
Could be. However, when you incarnate into this vessel, which is where we are now, it don't matter what I was. I can only go by the vessel I'm in now. And in this vessel, you got to be at the top, because they're going to try to keep you in the bottom. So you better know your history. You better know what you are, so that way you can always say what you aren't. Nobody can mistake me for nobody else, because I speak for me and I represent me as me. But not all Moors are going to look at it like that. Some Moors are going to look at it like, well, no, we just because we have key to our blood or whatever, don't mean that we need to be exposing ourselves to that. We're more Islamic or Moorish now. But to me, that's maladapted. Because when I came into this knowledge, I came into it through various means, through Nation of Gods and Earths, through going to my Shinnecock powwows with my god brother, going to the National Black Theater, going to what you call it, a Nation of Islam rallies. Like all of this gelled into what you're seeing now. But within that, I didn't get into those things to isolate myself from the rest of my people. So when I became a Moor, I didn't know that being a Moor would piss so many other people off. But what I realized, it's not me, it's what we as Moors represent. We represent the last bastion of humanity that fought against the same devils that y'all have all signed up to be with today. So all y'all Freemasons, all of y'all Rotaries, all of the Lions Clubs, all of those are the death Jubilee, Jubilo, and Jubilee orders that were the ruffians that helped destroy the Moorish Empire. And all of y'all signed up deals to be down with them and carry on their symbols and carry on their rituals as if they were yours, when you know damn well, or you're supposed to know damn well, that we created that to school the spiritual children who couldn't understand high science and intellectualism. So we had to give them symbols like a child, like a baby, to say, this is what it means to be this. This is what it means. Just like you do in the Boy Scouts, when you get to the Webelos and you try to get your badge and all that. That's what Freemasonry really is.
Wow.
That's what it is. It was for children. It was for the maladapted. It was for those who had no real understanding of true spirituality and could be maladapted to worship Lucifer. Because the Lord of your order, Albert Pike, told y'all niggas that the whole thing is based on him. And all of that comes from so-called old Jewish Kabbalah that they attained and worked on during their captivity in so-called Babylon. And they merged the Babylonian principles and created a bastard book called the Talmud that they then could run Freemasonry through by creating various little orders under that and then putting a different face on it, so that way you don't ascribe it back to those Jews who had their temple burnt down for disrespecting the covenant that they made with their God. And now they got you in it, right? Because anybody that's not a Hebrew is considered a Gentile. Yeah. So those who follow the Hebrew Freemasonry mystical systems came to be known as Gentile men. Okay. And then the Gentile men, or the gentlemen, became the ones who tended to run the society, because they were the keepers of how the society was before they came and wiped it out. And that's who y'all niggas is down with. And that's why when you ask why the Moors don't have this, why the blacks don't have this, because you got a bunch of niggas that look like you, that's posing like they oppressed when they're really down with it. So a lot of these white families that you think is white that have these names, they're just decoys. They don't even exist. It's actually black people that have that money. And they use these families as decoys to make you think that they white, because they outsource and trademark their name. The same way Jesse Jackson was able to turn you into an African American when he is listed as an American Indian and a Shriner. Because the Rainbow Coalition started off as a movement of so-called Black American Indians who were working to separate themselves from the federal Indian thing. And then they brought him in because he was Cherokee, and then they used him to co-opt the movement and give it to the gays. And then the gays took the rainbow, and then that became what the Rainbow Coalition was about. But he never gave up his shit, though. He's still listed as that. That's why he don't pay no taxes. That's why he do that. And he was a federal informant, and he was a Shriner. So he also know that none of that was real and that he's really a Moor. Just like Hoover, just like Booker T. Washington, just like Langston Hughes, just like all of these niggas that they propped up in front of you, because they was all being paid for by the same people. And the ones that found out what was really going on were the ones that got taken out.
Now, what about Michael Luther King? Martin, you told me his name was Michael. Martin Luther King.
Straight communist, white woman loving communist who allowed himself to become a martyr for them before he realized it was too late. The last speech he gave was where? The Masonic Lodge, right? And the next day he dead. Who invited JFK to speak in Dallas that day? The Freemasons. Who was running the theater the night John Wilkes Booth popped Lincoln in the head. The Freemasons. What was John Wilkes Booth? Not only was he a Freemason, he was a Jesuit. So don't try to laud me into this whole rose-colored glasses Freemasonry thing. Masonry is one thing. You want to get a good book on Masonry? Get Brother Abdullah Bey book. Get his book. He break it all down. He break it all down for you and let you know exactly who is who, where it's coming from, and all of that. That's once you read that, what you gotta go join? Like, you don't gotta do none of that, because you being a Moor, you are a walking lodge. You are a walking example of what it is to rise from the dismal crypt and receive the light in search of that, in search of light, to travel from the west to the east in search of light and that which was lost. You are the physical embodiment of that, because you was born 33 degrees on the square naturally. Your natural inclination, as soon as you come out the womb, is to raise your head up and suck on the breast of that mother. They don't do that. They don't do that. It take them weeks sometimes to raise their head up, because that's not who they are. That's not who they incarnated in. But if you incarnated in this, then you have an obligation to understand that you are made a son. You the son of your mother. So you a natural Mason. So you can naturally build things out of nothing and create gold out of lead just by you having the right attitude to do that. You don't gotta go and get no sword put to your chest, no apron to cover your nakedness, and none of the bullshit we did to these devils when we marched them across the hot Arabian desert into the caves of West Asia. That's what we did to them. So brother and sister, when they talk to you about crossing the burning sands, this is what they talking. They done made you take the position of the neophyte in the ritual when you was the one riding. That's why when the Freemasons ask you, well, you walking or you riding? They know the difference, because if you're walking, that means, you know what I mean? You the lower nature, you the lower self, you the fellow man, you done fell low. If you riding, you the more. You the one with the high-powered rifle. You the one that's bringing us into civilization and making sure the devil don't never come out of the damn cave. That's our role. So if you don't like that, that's on you. That's just the people we come from. And if it wasn't for us being that, you wouldn't be a Gullah Geechee. You wouldn't be a Cherokee. You wouldn't be none of this stuff. Because it was our blood that allowed it to happen. Because didn't all of the Indian War shit happen after 1492? Oh, that's what I thought. Did Columbus go to Africa after the so-called Moors lost to Spain? Where did he go? He came over here, right? Oh, right. So again, man, y'all can play ignorant if you want, but just because you have Haudenosaunee blood or Panahasua blood or Pahatuan blood, and you claim your Moorish nationality, you are not negating one for the other. You're reunifying what was broken, because your tribal name is the name of your family, like Johnson. So you would be a Johnson Choctaw or a Morgan Chickasaw, right? Or Sissiska, right? Better way of saying the original. And then your Bay, you add to that. Now that's your imperial title, which then opens up the international trust that exists under that title. Because the Bays were the ones who had the trust interest, security interest over the Bays, like Massachusetts Bay, Hudson Bay, Kasakamakumit Bay.
Can we pick up right there the next show?
Right there.
Because people want to know about bays and L's and what's the difference.
Oh yeah, we could get into it real quick. The ills were the ones who were like writing the laws or manifesting the scientific aspect of how to turn it into reality, and then the bays executed it. Real simple. So we're part of a two-clan moiety, right? Okay. A moiety is when you have two clans at the top. So that's why the American system is a two-clan moiety. Two systems at the top. You had the ills and the bays, and then you got the Republicans and the Democrats. But at one point, it was just the Republicans. See what I'm saying? The Democrats were created almost illegally through a thing called the Federalist Papers by a mulatto psychopath named Thomas Jefferson.
All right.
That's it.
They can't. All right. Thank you so much. You are educated, informed, and comical.
You got to keep it light, man. You got to keep it
Yes,
light, because that's how they bring your spirit down. This
that's
information
right.
to make you cry, make you depressed. You don't got time for
Mhm.
that. This is the best time to be alive, because we actually are seeing changes implemented that will benefit us. But you can't wait on them changes to benefit you. You got to start it now, so that way you're
Preach.
open for the benefits to come to you. Because a closed mouth don't get fed, and
Mm.
a fist can't shake. You know what I'm saying? So get your house together, declare your nationality if you want, if not, whatever. But strive to have a goal to believe or know that you need to have something of substance.
Mhm.
And take away what, if anything, from what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Take it away from it coming from me. And just think about it, what I'm saying, coming from like your grandfather or somebody who wants you to win, but not so much that they trying to come in and rule your life. Because what you do is on you. What I do is on me. And we can only be held accountable for the things that we do. So in a judgment day, it ain't going to be, well, I did this because, the government said, no, you did it because that's what you chose to do. So stay on your square, hold yourself to an accountability and a standard, love yourself, love each other, original people, man and woman. We got.
We all we
Stop
got.
doing the enemy work for it. Okay? And stop trying to defecate where you live. If China
Mm.
was to invade tomorrow, okay, they ain't coming to save you. Okay? They are not coming to save you. They coming to get what you got. So you better look to your left and your right, and just know that the shit get thick. The same one calling you nigga is probably gonna be the same one. Like, here, nigga, take that gun. Let's make this happen. Because it may come to that before it's over. But if we don't want it to, there's stuff we could do now, like getting your house in order, getting things proper, set up some sort of trust, invest in gold, invest when blood on the streets, buy property. Islam.
Mm. Islam, is this you? Let me see.
Yep. Prince Charles L. Rogers Ill. Yep. DS
Okay,
418. Yep.
okay. Because the people, somebody said they couldn't find you, so that's family. That
Yeah,
is
it's
dollar
Prince.
sign.
Yes, ds418.com. It'll
Let me
say
see.
Prince Charles Rogers L.
Okay,
Just so everybody know, that's my real name, or
that
my
Prince
my
Charles.
born name.
Prince Charles. He is a prince. Prince Charles Rogers L. So
Yep.
family, if you enjoyed, I know you did because I'm
Peace.
reading the chat. The Grand Sheik, who also has a doctorate in jurisprudence. He is a counselor. He's a sheik. He's a scholar. He's a master teacher. He's an astrologer. He's a
Thank
husband, a
you.
father, an
Thank you.
entrepreneur. If you enjoyed him like I have, then please support him. You can
Thank you,
send
guys. I appreciate you. Really,
send a
really a lot. Thank you so much, sis, for having me on. And we'll do it again. Just let me know.
Okay, we're going to have a part two. Support him at Cash App, $sign
Peace.
DS418 and Cordoba Organics. My name is
Peace,
Dr.
queen.
Kia Pruitt. That's Aseer the Duke of Tears. I hope we said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Peace, family. Good night.